Welcome to episode 031 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. It's April 22nd, 2024.
Yep.
I'm here, Kodaks.
Rick Ravenheart.
And we're going to jump right into what we've been playing. It's not a whole lot different for me.
Yeah.
I did finish up Cyberpunk finally, though.
Yes.
I'm 100% done with it. All trophies for both the main campaign, the DLC. I've seen all the major different endings of the game. And what I said last week is still true. You know, I think it's one of my favorite games in recent memory, but even maybe going back like a decade. I haven't played anything in a while that's really like hit me on like a wow, I love this. I love every second of it.
I'm going to say this before I forget.
Yeah.
What you probably haven't done is all the Easter eggs, which are dead bodies scattered throughout the game that have like their own shards with their own stories and stuff and their own gold weapons.
There are all kinds of...
If you want to do that, I have all that info in my
I have uninstalled the game. I am done. After 100 hours, I mean, my saves are backed up.
Yeah.
But like, I'm
done.
good. I did 100
right.
hours.
All right.
Now, I do want to bring specific attention to the Phantom Liberty campaign, which is the DLC for Cyberpunk. There is one ending... or I guess one branch of the two kind of split endings that you can go off of that branches into like two more different endings each.
Okay.
But anyways, one of these two main branches of the ending of the campaign turns into this like survival horror thing.
Jeez. Yeah, there are some parts of Cyberpunk that like do fall into that kind of atmosphere.
Like eerie and creepy. But this is one of those things where you are being... without spoilers, you're basically being chased around by a giant monster.
Okay. Gotcha.
I won't describe the monster, but let's just refer to it as a monster. And it was terrifying.
Yeah. Like,
they were setting up this kind of eerie, quiet atmosphere. I was kind of confused about it because there's, like, no enemies anywhere. I was like, I just kept going deeper and deeper into this, like, facility. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this crazy scary thing pops up and nearly kills you, and then you end up spending the next felt like 2 hours of the game trying to like seek imagine yourself like trapped in a facility and you're like trying to unlock these doors that are like on lockdown, and you have to like do all these things to like get them open, like unplugging and reprogramming computers and stuff. Meanwhile, there's this monster that like periodically drops into whatever room you're in, and then you have to go like, you know, like Jurassic Park where you're hiding from the velociraptors in the kitchen, you know? And it's nuts. And then like it just makes these horrific noises. Anyways, and it was something else.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So it caught me totally off guard.
So can you fight it or no?
I tried a couple times because I didn't know like what to do. And then if you I told you about there's like this bullet time mode that you can go into with one of the implants.
So there's a few implants that give you bullet time.
Well, there's this one where you like activate it at will and you get like so long to do things in it.
Right.
And it's using this implant called the Sandevistan. And I think it's like one of the neural implant, or it's like the main implant. You know, there's the implant that you can put your cyberware into. Yeah. Okay, so it's that implant, except the Sandevistan, because it has that crazy bullet time mode, you can't do any of your like cyberware hacks, your quick hack stuff. So you don't have access to any quick hacks at all. Gotcha. Which does make some things a little more annoying because it's nice when you can just like disable like cameras and things like remotely and stuff without shooting them and alerting people. Right. So yeah, I tried using the Sandevistan, but like the game knew that players would try to use that, and so this creature basically can detect when you're using it, and it's almost like it goes into its own bullet time mode that's faster than yours. Oh, geez. So yeah, it was nerve-wracking. especially at first, because yeah, it was like horrific, and like it's like you see this brutal, like when you get caught, there's like a pretty brutal like
Really?
death that you go through.
Jeez. Okay.
So yeah, that was a shocker. Honestly, I think it's kind of hard going from Phantom Liberty and then to the main game's endings, because they're not nearly as like
Epic.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like okay, they made, because Cyberpunk came out in 2020,
Right.
and Phantom Liberty didn't come out until like last September.
Right.
So like it's pretty new.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had all this new learning and everything, and lessons learned, and they applied that all to this DLC, and like came up with like way better boss fights, things like that. Not to say that there is a cool boss fight, I should say, at the end of the different main game endings, but nothing that compared to some of the other stuff in the Phantom Liberty DLC. It was really top shelf, like elevates the whole game to like another tier for sure.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's like, I go from this like crazy high, and then it's like the other
back to like the old stuff.
Old game where it's like it doesn't quite compare to how good the DLC was.
Yeah,
but I'm glad I didn't sleep on the DLC, because it really. It was
really worth the $30.
Worth the $30. Yeah. Worth, even though I missed the sale by one day.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And then while I've been playing Cyberpunk, I've been slowly watching the Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime that's on Netflix. And I won't speak about it too much, but I do recommend it a lot. If you enjoy the game, you'll enjoy Edgerunners. It's set a year before the events of 2077.
Okay.
The game, and it follows like this small crew that's kind of similar to the main character of Cyberpunk, kind of an outlaw, sort of renegade, taking jobs and things like that. But then there's all kinds of betrayal and romance, and anyways, it's just a really well done anime. It's beautiful. I think it was done by Studio Trigger. Something interesting that I noticed during the opening credits when it said who the musician was, it's Yamaoka, who did all the music for the Silent Hill games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I found that really interesting that he did the music for the Cyberpunk anime.
Right. Does it sound like him?
I'm not super familiar with Silent Hill, but I know the artist's name, so it stood out to me. I was like, oh my god, that is the same guy. But yeah, Edgerunners is really good. It's really, like, you think the game is bloody and brutal.
Yeah.
The anime is on another level. Like, you see people's, like, faces smushed in, and
really?
It's pretty gross.
Jeez.
Yeah, they don't hold back. Lots of nudity too.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the game.
Yeah, it definitely matches the game to an extent.
Right.
I would say maybe goes a little beyond the game in some regards, not all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a trip.
I'll be honest, and this makes me look stupid, but I'll own up to it. I didn't even know there was an anime.
It came out, I think, in 2022. I want to say, and kind of like made Cyberpunk sort of relevant again for some people. I think a lot of people went back to it after seeing the anime or discovered Cyberpunk because of the anime.
Yeah.
It is set in Night City.
Okay.
And I guess in one of the patches for Cyberpunk that came out much later after launch, I think I read it was the 1.6 patch, they added in a bunch of Easter eggs to the game that reference the anime.
Oh, that's cool.
So like you can find some of the characters like weapons and things. And there's this very short gig. Not a gig. What do they call? Side mission?
Side hustle.
Side hustle, I think it is. Where you can acquire the main character of the anime. You can acquire his jacket.
Oh, okay.
It's not really like a whole like involved mission. You don't meet anybody from the anime or anything like that.
Okay.
But you do come into contact with someone from the anime.
Okay.
And they kind of warn you about something, and the anime really deals with the cyberpsychosis aspect of things.
Okay.
Like, so I think we talked about it previously, but cyber psychos are these people who are like, it's like they're chrome junkies. Like, they got too many implants. It's overwhelming to their body.
Yeah, well, for what I understood, you probably would know better at this point, but what I understood is that there's a lot of black market sales of cyberware. And a lot of that black market cyberware is like stolen from victims and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that can create like corruption within the human, or like the organic human.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's definitely part of it. It seems like a lot of these cyber psychos, and especially in the anime, it's like military like implants that aren't meant for like normal people.
Okay.
You know, like people getting their hands on black market kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's not really meant to be had by your everyday person
Right.
in Night City.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's it for Cyberpunk. I won't talk about it again until there's a sequel.
There's something like significant.
Yeah. I do have a couple more things, but do you want to talk about what you've been playing, or are we...
I played more Izuna 2.
Okay.
I'm just dinking around with that.
Okay.
I'm not taking it super seriously. It's nice to have like a traditional Japanese game to play that's in the style of Mystery Dungeon.
Okay.
You know, it's not...
You should look into The Sheer and the Wanderer too if you like Mystery Dungeon, because it has a very like Asian Japanese aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like those style roguelikes.
Yeah.
You know, where it like generates the floor and you discover the floor, you know, with your map and stuff.
Are you playing on your 3DS or are you playing on a DS?
My 3DS.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really make a lot of progress.
Okay.
I really just ran through like old dungeons and stuff, just to farm items and.
So is this a game like now? Do you like if you die in the dungeon or fall in the dungeon or whatever they refer to it as?
Yeah.
You lose everything and start from scratch again. Basically?
If it's not in your storage, like back in the village, yeah, you lose it. If it's on your person in your like personal inventory, you lose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you able to go back to the dungeon and recover your items?
I've never tried that. Okay. I'm not even sure.
Yeah. Are you like playing it like I'm restarting my game if I die?
I have never really been in a situation where I was really gonna die.
Okay.
I tend to be like really prepared with items and stuff.
I understand the Sheer and the Wanderer games, like it's impossible to always be prepared. It's almost like you're intended to die, so you know what to do, like what to bring next time, what to do next time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. I said when I was traveling, I was playing Ys Memories of Salsetta on my Vita. And now that I finished Cyberpunk, I'm kind of going to go back to that, and that'll sort of be my main game. So again, just a very comfy, cozy kind of action JRPG. It's like sort of top down at an angle, like one stick, you don't use it for anything, you know, so you're just kind of like looking at it like a map of, you know, from above. It's nice. It's not super challenging, at least not yet. I am following a guide that I found on GameFAQs because it is sort of it's filled with like missables.
Oh really?
Yeah. Like, and I started the guide using the guide later, like after I'd already done like the first like major portion of the game. I guess like let's say the game has 10 chapters. I had already finished like 1.5 chapters.
Yeah. So you missed a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah, I saw the guy and I was like, oh, unless you went to this town at this certain point in the story and talked to this guy, this whole like quest chain is kind of like
lost. Not
exactly lost, but like you'll never see the whole thing.
Okay.
And like where it's like a trophy is tied to it, so I'm just like, oh well, forget it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna worry about getting the platinum for this game. I'm just playing to play through it. With Cyberpunk, the platinum, it was like, okay, I'm addicted to this game. Yeah. Like I want to.
Right.
Okay, I know I said I wouldn't talk about Cyberpunk anymore. But one thing, if you are playing Cyberpunk and you want to get all the trophies, you get to a certain point in the game where you can reset your talents, like your points that you invested into the key stats. You can only do that once per save file.
Oh, shoot.
So keep that in mind when you're doing the trophies, because some trophies require you to use a certain skill or have certain aspects about your character in order to complete those things.
That can make trophies missable.
Yeah, where you could have to do a second playthrough.
Okay.
So just something to be aware of if you're chasing after that Cyberpunk Platinum trophy. But thankfully, because of I had reset my points before I decided I was going to go after the Cyberpunk Platinum.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, I already had done some of the stuff that I needed to do with my different play style before it reset.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to get all the trophies. Though there was one trophy that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to unlock, but I was able to like equip a variety of certain kinds of gear that gave me more RAM and like put the RAM cost down to use a certain skill, Netrunner skill, and I was able to like detonate bombs like on the person of some, or not bombs, the grenades.
Yeah.
So like there's like you had to kill 3 people, like bad guys or whatever,
right?
Enemies, with like someone's grenade that's just like in their pocket or whatever, and then you just like remotely detonate it, and they just body parts go flying everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good game, man.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, so I'll be playing Ys for a while. I don't know that I'm gonna have a whole lot to say about it every week, so you know, if anything interesting happens, it is. I want to talk about the game is made by this company Falcom, Falcom. They've been around since like the 80s or something like that.
Yep.
They have a few. They have like 2 really main series. They have the Ys series and they have the Legend of Heroes series, which is where like games like Trails of Cold Steel and Trails of the Sky and all these Trails games come from. And so I've played a couple of the Trails games. They're very similar to this Ys game in that there is a lot of missable stuff. So they do make their games kind of old school in like a sense that I appreciate it, but at the same time where it's almost like, okay, you really do need a guide.
It's frustrating
if you want to like try to do and see as much of everything as you possibly can.
Right.
So, but it's been enjoyable to kind of play something a little more throwbacky to that. Like I don't know, I grew up with a guide in my hand when I played games.
Same.
And so it's kind of fun to do that again. Like a lot of games like Cyberpunk, you really don't need a guide for anything. I mean, maybe if you're trying to game the endings a little bit, you know, but like for just the day-to-day, you know, everyday kind of jobs and stuff, guides I feel aren't really super important to like get to the end of the game, you know?
See, I invest in that experience and go out and like buy an actual guide. It might cost me, you know, like $30 or whatever in some instances.
Yeah, some of the guides can be really expensive these days.
But I mean, I'd way rather have that than just my phone with game facts up.
Yeah, I usually have it up on my iPad. I mean, I feel you on that. Now, a lot of guides on GameFAQs now have like screenshots and different things incorporated into them. Okay. So it does have a little bit more like a... Yeah. But it's still, you know... Right. It's still a website.
It's flipping back to the appendix to see the list of all the different...
You know, what's depressing to me is that Pokemon stopped publishing guides. After Sword and Shield... That was it. No guide for Legends Arceus. No guide for Scarlet and Violet.
That's crazy.
They're done. Now in Japan they still have guides,
of course,
but here in the States they've stopped. I mean, those were like my favorite. I have a guide for every single game and except for X and Y, because for whatever reason in X and Y they only publish this little like pocket-sized guide in the U.S. Okay, and it's junk. It falls apart real easily. Yeah. And it doesn't stand correctly next to the rest of my guides. They did the same thing for the Animal Crossing New Leaf guide. They started doing these pocket guides for 3DS games.
It'd probably be pretty cheap because I know how you are. Yeah. To collect all the Japanese guides, it probably would not be expensive.
All of them?
All of them, yeah. Well, for one for each game, you know, the official.
Okay, one for each game. I mean,
I'm just talking about the official.
I mean,
one.
We
probably have a few.
Yeah.
I know I have Crystal.
Yeah. We got... Well, I got more into the guides than you did. Yeah. But when we used to frequent this particular book-off location that had a lot of the Japanese guides here in the States, I mean, they would sell them for like $1 to $5 each. Yeah. It was like a gold. We'd just pull open the drawers and it'd be like, oh my God. Yeah. I have quite a few of them.
I think I have Colosseum and Crystal version. Yeah. Which is...
But I have like 3 or 4 different guides for like red and blue. Or red and green.
I don't mean pursuing it that way. I just mean like whatever official guide came from Nintendo or whatever.
I think they're all...
From Nintendo?
Some
That's
capacity
crazy.
Of official.
Why do we need that many?
Well, some of them have like stickers in them. Some of them are
Yeah.
like a more general guide. Some of them are like Pokedex guides. Some
Yeah.
of them, yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's true.
And then regarding purchases, haven't really got any new games in, but a while back I went to this book off in Irvine that had a bunch of Game Boy games, and they were super cheap. So I picked up 3 of them, and I can't really speak to the 3 of them, so I'm just going to mention them by name and talk about the art on the cartridge.
Yeah.
Okay, so first game we have is Bakano V3.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to play this game, and all I could get was menus, and I just kept pressing A, and like it just kept like continually going through menus. I'm not sure there's any graphics to this game.
Yeah.
It might just be like all stats
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Because I believe this is a horse racing game. Because the cover has like a very muscular looking horse.
Yeah.
On the
cartridge.
On the cartridge art. And it's got this nice kind of coppery, shiny label along, like as part of the art. And for anyone wondering of its Game Boy code, it's DMG VVJ.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to look that one up. The next cartridge I have here is Pachinko Time.
Yeah.
And this has some like very colorful looking 1980s anime looking artwork on it. It's got a green dragon, a boy with a schoolboy of some kind, a businessman, and a schoolgirl, and they're all looking at this little pachinko character. He's like a round pachinko ball with arms and legs like Pac-Man, basically.
Yeah, right.
And he's holding a Game Boy, and he's like playing a game on it.
So if you own any Japanese console, you likely own one of the games in this franchise, because I've seen this on everything. It's on Famicom, it's on Super Famicom, it's on Game Boy. I think there might there's not a Virtual Boy game, but it's on like every Japanese console, even like Satellaview and stuff like that. I think has Pachinko Time. But yeah, it's a big franchise in Japan.
And it's copyright 1989 Coconuts.
Okay.
That's the name of the developer or the publisher.
Probably the developer.
Yeah, and its code is DMG PTJ.
Oh, okay.
All right, the last one I have here is a game from Konami. It is part of their Konami Sports series, and the title is World Soccer GB. And I was drawn to the cover because the artwork on the cartridge, because it has like CG looking characters, computer generated, like very like Toy Story 1 looking like humans. You likened it to like Tekken or something.
Yeah,
like
it looks
that.
like old school Namco, Bandai
human
type,
models,
SNK looking stuff, like Virtua Fighter. You know?
Yeah, I did pop this one in before Rick got here, and I played a round of the penalty kick mode, which just has you in sort of like a third person behind the...
Third person view?
Well, like third person but pulled back.
Okay.
Not like right over the shoulder or anything.
Okay.
And then it just has the soccer player like up against the goalie, and you just kind of use the D-pad to... hit the ball. You know, like you press A to go for the kick, and then whatever direction you're hitting the D-pad in, it kind of targets that area of the net, and you're basically, I guess, just like betting against the AI that they're going to get it wrong wherever you're kicking it towards. Yeah.
It's what you're describing sounds pretty complex for original Game Boy.
Yeah, and this was just like, it looked like an extra mode. It just said PK, so I figured it was penalty kick.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so you can practice it for like the main game.
Right.
So, yeah. Because I'm sure it's like more of a fully fledged like soccer style.
Right.
I've only ever played one soccer game. It's the soccer for the SNES. Or no, the NES.
There's a few.
Well, like the one made by Nintendo.
Oh,
the one that they put in Animal Crossing as like a...
yeah, okay.
Too. Anyways, I enjoyed that NES game quite a bit. I would play it a lot. But yeah, that's it. That's all for my my regular updates.
Right.
I don't think we've really been up to anything new.
Nope.
So we're gonna jump right into Seraphim Weekly Update.
Yeah, and it's It's only been a week.
It's not even been a week.
Yeah.
We released the episode 4 days ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So I haven't done a lot. I did a little bit in Photoshop.
What's going on in Photoshop?
Just assets and stuff for the pause menu. I had talked about how I was going to do some visual stuff, to kind of like introduce some motion while the game's paused.
Okay.
So building those assets.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like stuff that's recycled, and then I do tweaks to it to make it original again. And
okay. That's
kind of my usual approach.
All right.
But yeah, just building assets to animate on the pause menu.
What are you looking forward to with, like, what's the next thing you want to target?
Oh, it's going to be the reflectors. So.
Oh, okay. You are straight up going into the reflectors after this.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So you're going into, like, gameplay.
Yeah.
In a way. Well, gameplay is going to be the same. They're just going to look different. Is that what?
Well, they're going to instantiate on their own, and they're going to self-destruct on their own.
Okay.
They're going to spawn their own particle system effects and stuff like that when they get hit and stuff on their own.
Okay, so there's some programming to be done.
It's all stuff that exists. It just exists in the wrong place.
Okay.
It needs to be like rearranged. That's what all of this is, really.
Okay.
If you get down to it.
Yeah.
Just real briefly to sort of revisit what's been done and what needs to be done in the gameplay.
Sure.
Enemies are done. All of them. Like there's one type of regular enemy that's not in the game yet, and that's it. All other regular enemies are done. They're spawning on their own. They have their own manager assigned to waves that I can build a level out, So all enemies are done. All items that fly by are done. So the fallen matter, things that explode, the power-up items themselves, not the environments and stuff, but the actual item that flies by. Those are done, spawning on their own and destructing on their own. The pause menu now, the intro is done. So, yeah, I think that's it. Off the top of my head, I think that's it.
Okay.
So what's not done are the power-up environments. That's going to be the last attack. Like, I'm going for everything before that.
Okay. Those
are going to be like a big bite to do. That's going to take a few months.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I have to build new animators for every element that has an animator on it, because part of my effort is updating the components to like modern technology. I have a lot of the old school animation systems on those, actually all of them, and Mechanim or however it's pronounced is Unity's newer animation system. So I need to build a new animator and assign the animation clips, which are all staying the same. Like, I'm not going that deep. I'm not reanimating stuff. But I have to assign the animation clips and draw this flow chart, because that's how Mechanim works. Whereas with the old one, you would just reference all your animation clips and call them, like in scripts, like, serif.animator.
So is this something, is it not possible for you to just use what you already know how to use? Or would it make your life easier to use the new one?
Well, I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get the game project stuck in a situation where it's like, okay, animator's getting deprecated in this new version, so convert all your stuff. Okay. I'd rather do it now. I know it feels like a lot, but it's going to be even more if the game's complete. Okay. Yeah, so I'd rather get up to date with all that. Okay, so
you have to basically... all the old power-ups have to be sort of reapplied to this new animator?
Well, yeah.
Okay, and then you have 2 new power-ups you haven't done yet.
No, there's only one.
Oh, there's only one.
That doesn't exist.
Okay, gotcha.
But there's a lot of animators within those things. Okay. So each power-up environment has different, objects or whatever within it,
Right.
that each has its own animator.
Okay.
It's not like one animator for the whole thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you take Geist, for example, the big pagodas that rise,
Yep.
that has its own animator. And then the Serafox, the character, the fox in the background that's supposed to be like the reincarnate of the character, that has its own animator.
There's a lore bit right there.
Oh yeah,
everyone.
there is a little bit. Yeah, I mean,
it's got a little bit of a taste.
The lanterns and stuff, I think they have some motion that is also using an animator. So there's like a bunch of animators in Geist, you know, 2 or 3 at least. And yeah, each one, those are going to be really easy to replace with Mechanim because there's one animation clip or 2. Serafox has a few. He has a jump, and then he has an idle, and then he has a second jump that he does. So there's like 3, but it's all straight. There's no dynamicness to it. That's all easy to convert.
Okay.
It's not going to be that bad. Every particle system in all of those is using the old school particle ellipsoid animator.
Oh, wow.
Or ellipsoid particle system is what it's called. The current particle system for Unity is Shuriken. And I've been using Shuriken for every particle system I've made since I updated the engine to 2017.4.
Okay.
Which is still the current engine version I'm using.
Okay.
And it's going to be public. Like, the game's going to be finished in that.
On that.
Yeah. It's the last version to support Vita.
Okay.
And it also includes Switch.
Okay.
So, but all my old particle systems are all using the ellipsoid particle emitter. That's well deprecated. You know, if I ever upgrade the engine, it's not going to support that.
Okay.
Those need to go bye-bye, and they need to be, and I have to actually build a new particle system in Shuriken. There's no way to convert that. I've seen tools that supposedly convert to Shuriken, and they're crap. It looks bad. It's not anything like it's supposed to be after you do that, so I just build everything from scratch and save myself that much time.
Okay.
And Shuriken looks a lot better at the end of the day. Like, same with Mechanim.
So you're, in a way, you're excited about it?
No, that's all dark work. This is all dark work. I'm not making any progress on
nothing visually the campaign.
Yeah, like the campaign is not getting more done.
Right.
You know,
the campaign is like at 0% right now, right?
Well, no, the campaign's at like, I'm still building systems, so yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
But I mean, levels exist, but they're not complete.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's going to be a lot to do all this, but once it's done, everything should feel a lot cleaner. It'll all look better. I'm also taking the opportunity to do all kinds of UX improvements. So if there is something that I do feel isn't communicating information to the player well enough, I am, you know, like, you haven't seen it. This has been in the game for a while, but you haven't seen it. When you kill enemies now, they have like a purple ball of energy that flies into your meter to show the player that this is what's powering up your meter.
Okay.
You know, and that...
But I mean, at some points, you were killing a lot of enemies all at once.
Yeah.
So there's just purple balls flying all over the screen.
Like, well, I mean, it's the same thing with the numbers, like the +1s and all that. Like, those are flying around.
It's just more effects.
Yeah, but I mean, when you kill an enemy, it has like its pink soul goes into your meter.
Okay.
And
does it fly to like the tip of the meter that's growing, or does it just like go to the
No,
whole
it flies to the tip of the meter, like the end of the meter.
That's cool.
I have it all dynamic. It's
that sounds cool.
It's a lot of time doing this kind of stuff, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, it's gonna leave an impression.
You see your game looking good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that's one thing that, you know, that's one area where, and the reason I did that is because I need to tell the player that this is how you power up your meter.
Right.
And that communicates.
That conveys it without you having to like pause the game
right.
and go.
Dialogue box. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I have another question. Does the purple ball just like, okay, enemy dies and then it goes straight to the meter, or does it do like a
it kind of does like
it does
an
like a
arc
little
thing,
arc?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's not, I didn't put that much time into that, but it does do like it stays there for a second and then flies. Yeah.
That sounds cool. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been in there for a while. I also like, I don't know, the point values and stuff that like appear when you kill an enemy.
Yeah.
Those have a different animation now. I'm also using a different tool for those. Those used to be the 3D text mesh, which is obsolete. It's now the Text Mesh Pro is the tool that Unity replaced that with. And Text Mesh Pro doesn't just allow you to change the font like the old tool did. It allows you to apply gradients. It allows you to apply textures to text.
Okay.
Drop shadow. Basically all the Photoshop effects that you can apply to text, you can apply them in Engine at runtime with Text Mesh Pro. So now I'm like, okay, all these numbers and stuff flying around, I'm going to do stuff with them.
Okay.
You know, have them like animated gradient and have them like twitch, you know, and spin out like as they shrink. Yeah. So give them like the Vegas treatment a little bit, you know, just for that dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that's done. That's all been done for years.
I have a marketing idea.
Sure.
Okay, when the game is launching, you should announce, like, we're doing a platinum trophy contest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first 5 people to, like, show me that they got the platinum trophy get, like, a signed poster or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, to almost, like, incentivize people to, like, jump in.
Yeah.
Like, day one. And I don't know, just to make a little contest out of it, you know?
Yeah, that's a good idea, and that's a really good marketing tactic.
Yeah.
When I think of marketing, I think of, like, who am I going to send my press kit to? How, you know, who am I going to DM
This is
on
more
Twitter?
something specifically for the people who have been, like, following the game.
Yeah.
Just like for not something you're going to announce to the world.
Right.
You know, but, like, something fun you can do for, like, the people who've been following the development here and on Twitter over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I don't know, that could be a fun way to engage with people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I should do something like that. That wouldn't even be hard to do.
No, literally, it's like the first 5. I mean, trophies are time-stamped and dated and everything, right. So it wouldn't be hard to...
Right. Just send me your screenshot and, you know, prove that you have it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a good idea.
Anyways, that was just a random thought I had while we were talking.
Good one. All right.
Okay, so that's it for Seraphim?
That's it.
Okay, well, that ended up being meatier than I think you thought.
Yeah. Always is.
So we're going to jump into our stories. So our first story is about Target. Now, you may remember Best Buy last year announced that they would be phasing out of their physical media, meaning their DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that. Well, it turns out Target is now doing the same thing.
You're right.
So rumors were swirling last week that Target would be following in Best Buy's footsteps. They would be removing physical media from their brick and mortar stores. While there are some caveats to this rumor, it did end up being fairly accurate to the truth.
Yeah.
IGN reached out to Target for comment and received a reply. I guess, I don't know, for whatever reason, people seem to respect IGN.
Yeah.
I guess.
You mean like other companies?
Yeah, other companies. Like they're constantly giving statements to IGN, you know, when no one else can get a reply.
Right. Oh, these guys are prestigious.
Yeah, IGN's been around.
Yeah.
Remember their babes section?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so Target said, based on our guests' shopping patterns and broader industry trends, we're transitioning the limited assortment of DVDs we carry in our stores to Target.com, where guests will continue to find thousands of titles. Moving forward, we'll offer select DVDs in stores when they are newly released or during key times throughout the year when they are more popular, like for gift giving during the holidays.
Okay.
So here's the confirmation. So yes, they are moving DVDs and Blu-rays out of the store.
Yeah.
But occasionally,
they'll
for certain big releases, they'll maybe have like a I worked retail. I worked at Target. So
Right.
did you.
Yeah.
At one point in our past, and they have these things. I think they call them bulk outs. They come like in a box, and you just lift the box off of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like pre-stocked. And
Yeah. It's like a pre-stocked display.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my guess is they'll probably have these like pre-stocked displays that they'll just push on the floor next to the cash registers or buy electronics.
Yeah.
Periodically when there's like a major tentpole release,
right.
But
and then not restock it. Like
exactly. Once it's sold, it's sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gone are the days where you could go just like, oh, I remember literally being like, because Target used to have like a really good like $5 movie section.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I would go, even before I worked there, even with my parents, my mom, and we would like, oh, let's go get a movie, because it was like $5 to buy a DVD, or you'd go to Blockbuster and pay like $7.50 for like one night,
Right.
It was like, let's just go buy a movie then.
Yeah.
And we would just go browse the like $5-10 DVDs and take something home,
Yeah.
And then you have it forever.
Yeah, exactly. Walmart still does that. They have giant bins.
They have the $5 bins, yeah.
I think I remember not that long ago, this year already, I grabbed every what are they called? What are those freaking Stallone movies called now?
Rambo?
No.
Oh, the Expendables?
The Expendables. I bought them all. Like,
okay,
all
they were all
them.
in there?
Yeah.
All 3 or 4?
With like the cardboard jacket and everything.
Oh, nice.
And like, for like $3 each.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Just get them all.
So that's over at Target. I mean, there might still be some stuff there now. I think this is supposed to be a transition that happens into 2025.
It does sound like there's gonna still be available online though.
Yeah, which unlike Best Buy,
right.
who like eliminated them from not only their brick and mortar stores but also their website.
Right.
Like they don't even have movies on their website anymore.
Yeah.
So Target will still carry all of that stock just online.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess if you're operating a retail store and you've got 5 aisles that are normally filled with like movies and stuff, and they're not really moving, you could probably make better use of that space.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just sad that consumers don't realize what they're doing to themselves.
It's that's a whole other thing. But yeah,
I mean, we saw it with Crunchyroll. People buying their animes on Funimation, and then when it merges with Crunchyroll, all those digital purchases
it gets lost,
get evaporated.
We see it with the eShop shutting down.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can still re-download for now. But I mean,
it's still holds true that that's going to be lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that people aren't catching on.
They trade. They're like, why would I go to the store when I could just, with a click of my remote, buy something?
Right. But then everything you have available to you is controlled.
Yeah. 100%. You don't control when you have access to it anymore.
Right.
Internet goes out. You don't have access to
it.
Company goes under. You don't have access to
it. Or
someone
someone decides that a movie that you want to see or a movie that you like is offensive or shouldn't exist, and they just pull it.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
That's probably going to happen. I mean, with streaming services, we've seen like they'll put out a new show that's only available streaming.
Right.
But for whatever reason, it doesn't get a lot of viewers. So then they pull it off the streaming service and then they write it off as like a loss.
A loss, yeah. For tax reasons.
And so there was no DVD release of it, so you're never going to see it again.
Yeah.
Unless someone pirated it and put it online somewhere.
People still, despite being hurt already, don't realize the importance of custodianship and keeping physical media of all, these pieces and stuff. Yeah. It's sad. And part of me wonders when people are going to wake up. Part of me thinks that they won't.
And if they do, it'll be too late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They won't realize it. And it's glaring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you bought something digitally and they gave you the file to store offline and, like, use however you see fit.
Right.
I mean, that would be better.
That's a digital download.
But at least you can back it up on hard drives.
Yeah, that's better than streaming for sure. The only thing you can do with streaming is maybe have a TV where you can record.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these streaming shows do end up, on dark web
right,
sites.
yeah.
So, you know, I mean, they're not truly entirely lost, but you might have to risk, you know, viruses and stuff.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to go to the deep web for, you know, to watch a movie.
Yeah. Fire up the VPNs.
Right. Yeah.
So one thing Target did also say is that physical games would not be affected by this transition. So this purely applies to TV shows and movies that Target...
For now.
For now, yeah. That's... I mean, they didn't say for now, but that's implied.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we talked about Target before. You go into Target's game section now, it's a quarter of what it was a decade ago.
So let's talk about this. When you and I were at Pokemon Go Tour, we went into a Target and
in Pasadena,
you know, consciously went to
the game section
and just to see what these sections were like. Go ahead, like what?
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean the PlayStation and Xbox sections were almost nothing.
Yeah,
like the only games you could find were like
Madden.
Yeah, like the really popular sports games and like the stuff like Spider-Man and God of War.
Yeah.
Like the things that have already sold millions and millions of copies. Like, good luck finding anything more niche or smaller there. Mm-hmm. Nintendo section was a bit better. There was a lot more variety there.
Yeah.
Not just from Nintendo, but also third parties and smaller publishers. You do also now see a lot of, the digital download cards.
Yeah.
So, like, you scan the card when you're at the register, and then it prints a code on your receipt that you can redeem on the eShop or on PlayStation
That's so
Network.
sad, dude.
Yeah. They don't even put the code on the card anymore. Yeah.
God.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the state. You do see a lot of accessories.
And, I mean, between the three consoles, it felt like 2 aisles, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like one whole aisle for Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like, they had, like... You know, because an aisle is broken down into, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, like, kind of segments.
It's like Nintendo plus hardware on one aisle, and then PlayStation and Xbox on another aisle.
Like, on each side of an aisle. Yeah. And, like, they're not even full-size aisles. They're, like, abbreviated, size aisles.
They're, like...
Special Xbox is even, like... I mean,
they're like...
PlayStation's...
I call them portable aisles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they could just wheel them in the back at any moment.
Right.
Yeah, so not good. Not good. But that's the latest development with Target. I mean, I gotta wonder, Best Buy, Target, when does Walmart make their move?
I'm gonna be honest, Walmart's section is probably the best as far as retail goes.
I will say with Walmart though, I feel like all the games are like, there's like one really long aisle, and it's like all the games on like one shelf.
Well, they have they have a bunch of like glass display cases, usually in most locations, that have a lot of Nintendo Switch and then some Xbox, and Xbox is usually the smallest. That seems to be like, you know, a recurring thing. And then PlayStation was maybe half an aisle.
Okay.
And then they have those portable aisles as well.
Yeah.
Which have games in there, or game sleeves in those plastic things.
Yeah, the little
boxes.
Keeper boxes or whatever.
And
security boxes.
So, I mean, better.
Yeah. Walmart still has like that retro games behind a glass case.
Yeah,
like, I remember, you gotta go get someone to slide it open, pull the game out.
And then they do have PC games on just like a little rack as well.
In box or
in
like...
box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, physical PC games. They also carry the 1-Up arcade cabinets. Those little...
I have seen that. Yeah,
and as well as some amps. Gaming amps and other sound audio systems and stuff. They also have a lot of cool stuff. You know, one aisle over it kind of bleeds into music a little bit. They kind of have it all mixed a bit. And all of their modern vinyl record players and stuff.
Yeah, Target has a vinyl section now too.
But yeah, it's quite a bit of paraphernalia.
It does seem like
stuff.
more. It does seem like they are like gonna hold out longer.
Yeah.
I will say it is very hit and miss going to a Walmart.
Yeah, that's true.
For anything.
Right.
I mean, anytime you're at Walmart, the experience is sure to be varied and interesting. Just because, like, I don't know what it is. The employees don't seem to want to be helpful very much.
Yeah, I feel like with Walmart, there's such high turnaround that every employee is only a few weeks old. You know?
Like, I don't know. Like, who has the keys to this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does anybody work back here? I don't know.
Do you know where you are? I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know what that says about Walmart.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, and then like I feel like I don't know. Although sometimes I have walked into Walmart and seen like crazy deals.
Yeah,
like where stuff is like steeply discounted.
Well, the whole store feels like a steal compared to like Target prices.
I don't know. I feel like for a lot of... I mean, this is like way off topic.
Yeah,
but
we're comparing Walmart to Target right now.
All right, let's just stick to the games.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just like real... Because I guess Walmart has like a lot of autonomy to just like slash prices at their individual store.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think like Target and other retailers have that.
It comes from higher up the food chain, yeah.
I mean, I remember at Target there was some like price, like some stuff does go on clearance at one store and not at another store.
Mm-hmm.
But like at Walmart, they just do like the rollbacks. Remember the rollbacks?
Yeah.
Rolling.
Right.
The commercials.
Those 90s commercials.
Yeah, so like I'll see like new games for like half off just a few months later, and but it's like the deals are really inconsistent, you know, like you'll hear about, oh, this one store over here has it for, and then I'll go to the store near me and now it's still full price, you know?
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I don't really, like whenever I hear there's a deal at Walmart, I'm like, do I really want to go running around to chase a $20 savings? I'm like, no, probably not.
Right.
Okay. Unless Rick has anything else he wants to say about...
On that topic, no. Did we hit all the bullet points?
Oh yeah, we definitely did.
Oh, Wait, did you talk about the, Oh, sorry, never mind. I'm looking the wrong thing.
All right.
Continue.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our second story, which is kind of a sad story.
Yeah.
Nobody died, but a game kind of died.
It's not our saddest story ever.
No, we've had sadder. But so this is about LittleBigPlanet 3's online services suddenly being shuttered by Sony. So a little bit of background on this one. LittleBigPlanet 3 launched in 2014 for the PlayStation 4 and was developed by Sumo Digital, not by Media Molecule. This is the first major numbered entry in the series to not be developed by UK company Media Molecule.
Yeah. Who created LittleBigPlanet?
Who created the series, developed the first two games.
Right.
So LittleBigPlanet is a series well known for its ability to enable players to create their own levels and content for the game. This is commonly referred to as user-generated content, or UGC for short.
Right.
While it has a campaign mode of its own, the real meat and potatoes of the game is playing and making user-created levels.
Right.
So when the first LittleBigPlanet game came out, I think it was like 2009 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like PS3.
PS3 era, yeah. And the PS3 was really struggling at the time. Sony was failing to like find a hit.
Yeah.
But then LittleBigPlanet 3 comes out and it kind of blows up.
LittleBigPlanet 1.
Sorry, LittleBigPlanet 1, the original LittleBigPlanet, comes out and it creates like a new mascot for like Sony and PlayStation.
Were they even backed up by Sony when they came out with the first one? I think Sony jumped on board later, or no?
I want to say Media Molecule has been a Sony company, a Sony studio.
From the beginning, okay.
I believe so. I mean, at least for LittleBigPlanet.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know about
their history,
their corporate history, yeah. And so all of a sudden, Sony has like a smash hit. It's kind of got a lot of word of mouth behind it. It's the first game, it would later spawn like imitators like Mario Maker.
Yeah.
And other, I mean, even maybe Minecraft to an extent, you know?
I mean, it wasn't the first game to heavily feature UGC.
No.
But it definitely furthered the move in that direction
Yeah.
for games. Big time.
Now, me personally, I have never been the biggest fan of games where I'm expected to like
create.
Yeah, to like to make my fun, you
Right,
know?
yeah.
Like when I buy a game, I want to experience like some team's vision.
Right.
And so like I remember being interested in a Little Big Planet, but kind of like held off just because it was like what was expected of me was like pretty great. You know, like okay, like I'm gonna have to spend like hours and hours
creating levels and stuff.
Now I did briefly get into, there was a DSiWare game. It was like the Mario and Donkey Kong Minis March Again.
Yeah.
It was a DSi download title, and it had its own campaign, but it also featured a level maker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, for whatever reason, I like broke my rule with that game, and I got really into creating levels for that particular title. And I remember I had this one level that I was like so proud of. Yeah. Because it was like kind of complex, but like if you knew what you were doing, like it was like felt really satisfying to like complete it. Mm-hmm. So I imagine a lot of players of like Little Big Planet kind of felt that way about their games, or their levels that they created.
I have a similar story real quick.
Sure.
So Mario Paint on Super Nintendo.
That's true. That was a UGC.
Yeah. You made music, but you also made levels.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you had the music blocks and stuff, and you'd run around as Mario and play them. Yeah. I spent, with my little sister, so many hours, because you had the mouse, the Super Nintendo mouse. It was, I'd probably, like 100 hours, maybe 150 hours, just making stuff. Yeah. I make stuff that looks like something. Yeah. Like the whole level, like, is a painting.
That's cool. People who played Mario Paint talk about that game very, very fondly. Yeah. I never had the opportunity to play.
It Mario has everything. Paint. It has like its own arcade game mode where your mouse cursor is like a fly swatter and you're like hitting flies or whatever. Yeah. And then it has a music maker.
Like a WarioWare mini game.
Kind of like that. But it's just that. It's just that one game, and then you have stages. Okay. But it's just an arcade style game. And then there's the music maker, and then there's the level thing where you actually play a Mario game basically with your own levels you create.
Yeah. So what set Little Big Planet apart though was that you could share your created levels. Right. You could post them online, and you could download other people's levels and play their levels. Mm-hmm. And so like a whole community was kind of formed around this game. So fast forward to this earlier this year, Little Big Planet 3 for PS4 is the only Little Big Planet game that's still like supported at this point. Yep. And it was hit by a DDoS attack, so that's a denial of
DDoS is denial.
It's like direct denial of service or something like that. Yeah. So basically, a whole bunch of like internet traffic is like flooded into like the server
using bots and stuff like that,
and it just basically took the server down,
right, to overwhelm the server with excessive traffic.
So this is just malicious jerks on the internet who think it's funny to ruin a game for people. So Sony took the servers down and said, we're going to have to put these in maintenance while we figure out how to get this back online. Mm-hmm. Now keep in mind, this game launched in 2014. We're a decade later. Yeah. All right. So, now last Friday, April 19th, Sony announced that the servers hosting the user-generated content would not be returning with the following statement. Due to ongoing technical issues which resulted in Little Big Planet 3 servers for PS4 being taken offline temporarily in January of 2024, the decision has been made to keep the servers offline indefinitely. Mm-hmm. All online services, including access to players' creations for Little Big Planet 3, are no longer available. User-generated content stored locally on your PS4 will remain available. Any new UGC you create can be played on your PS4, but not shared. Offline features such as the campaign will remain playable. Right. So let's break this down a little bit. You can play the campaign, no problem. Like you still install the game, you don't need an internet connection to any
Yeah.
server to play the campaign of the game. But
Right.
again, the campaign is a small thing meant to trigger your creativity and
Yeah.
make you want to jump into the level creator and make your own levels.
And is the bulk of the experience.
Yeah. So now you still can make your own levels, but you can no longer share them
Right.
online with anybody.
Right.
If you had previously downloaded other people's levels on the internet, as long as like your hard drive doesn't fail, you still have access to that content.
Yeah.
So some people out there will have, some UGC downloaded.
Hopefully people are dumping that stuff to some degree.
I mean, you would need like a modded PS4.
It would take, it'd take some effort.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably... So one thing that's special about Little Big Planet 3 is that it was like forwards compatible with all the content created for Little Big Planet 1 and 2.
Yeah.
All the DLC from those games carried over.
Mm-hmm.
All the levels people made could be carried over. So Little Big Planet 3 literally had the whole history of the franchise baked inside of it.
As far as user-generated content.
Yeah, all the user-generated content.
Yeah.
So now it's just completely gone.
Right.
You can't access it anymore.
So in the previous story, we talked about like losing everything, right? Mm-hmm. With like the Nintendo eShop shutting down, PSN shutting down for older systems, Crunchyroll shutting down or merging or whatever. This is like a unique situation.
Yeah.
In that you don't even get a warning.
Nope.
You got, the servers went down for maintenance due to an attack. And now they're going to stay down forever.
Yep.
And you don't have an opportunity to go download anything.
Nope.
It's after the fact.
Because normally, yeah, you're right. There would be a warning.
Right.
Sony would be like, hey.
Yeah, you'd have a grace period of 30 days or whatever to get what you want.
I mean, or, a couple months. Hey, guys, the servers are going to go offline.
Right.
Anything you want.
Or the end of the year or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, this is just like devastating to the people in the community. Like I saw replies on Twitter where the announcement was posted by the Little Big Planet account, and people were like in shambles. They're like, "What do you mean I can't download anything?"
Yeah, right.
Like
again, like
my levels that I uploaded. Like I don't have them on my new PS5 yet.
Right.
Like, oh well.
Yeah,
oh well. Now, it's hard to fault Sony for this.
I mean, I don't fault them for the DDoS attack. I don't fault them for their servers going down.
Well,
but,
I mean, what were their servers made out of? Like duct tape? I mean, like how? Hey, because this is not the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
So if you go back to 2021, a similar DDoS attack took down the PS3 versions of Little Big Planet 1, 2, and 3, as well as the Vita version of Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
All 4 of those games, their UGC was disabled because of a similar DDoS attack.
Right.
And no one ever came forward to claim that they had done this attack. Mm-hmm. As far as we know, nobody knows who's behind this.
Right.
Yeah. So Sony knew that there were people attacking Little Big Planet 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened. The servers went offline temporarily, and then they couldn't figure out how to fix them. Probably because the games were really old. And the people who worked there, the people who made those, network...
Yeah, set up the computer networking side of the game.
Yeah, probably long gone. Don't work for them anymore. Don't remember how they coded it a decade and a half ago.
And also, they probably weren't thinking about DDoS attacks back in 2009.
Yeah.
Do
you remember Sony had that huge... hack. The summer of 2011, I think it was.
Probably the most devastating hack.
PlayStation Network was unavailable for like 3 months or something like that. It was crazy.
That, and I think a bunch of people's credit cards got out.
Yeah. It
was bad.
Nuts.
It was bad.
It was nuts.
Sony has had a history of cybersecurity problems.
Yes.
And lacking cybersecurity measures.
Just in general.
I think that...
I mean, this is going to be a problem. Like, for all we know, Sony intended for Little Big Planet 3's online servers to be available for another decade.
Right.
But just because they had dated infrastructure for these servers,
Yeah.
or how the networking was done between the games and the servers and the other players' games,
They
someone was able to exploit that.
They...
This opens up a whole new fear
Yeah.
of like old games that still have their online servers running.
Mm-hmm.
These just jerks that are out there.
Right.
That
but that's, you can't, like, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who or where or when. That's going to happen. You need to be prepared. It's your responsibility. You know that, like I know with my virtual private server for Seraphim, that bots are combing the internet and bots are going to try to brute force my stuff. So I have a password that's 64 pages long that, I'm not kidding. And I've never had a problem.
Okay.
You know, I did have a problem in that my server would log every attempt. And that crashed my server because it got, So, but I took care of that.
Okay.
I disabled the logging and stuff, and now it's just... But anyways, my point is that you have to expect that bots are combing the internet. You have to expect that jerks are out there.
Yeah.
And it's your responsibility to have cybersecurity measures in place.
Yeah.
Now, I think that they should have been, like, updating their servers. They take them down for maintenance every so often. Update the operating system.
I mean, Sony would probably say, like, hey, you guys should be glad we even left the servers up for a decade.
Yeah,
as it is.
Yeah, they like to... I could see them, like, what,
Yeah, but, I mean, literally now...
You should be grateful to us.
Like, Media Molecules, like... entire LittleBigPlanet legacy is effectively like erased.
Yeah.
Like it's all gone. It's all inaccessible. Like LittleBigPlanet is effectively dead now.
Yeah.
Like the whole, like the soul of the game is creating and sharing.
What
and
they
you
could
can't do that anymore.
Okay. Crazy thought.
Okay.
Sony could really turn this into a freaking win, like a huge W.
LittleBigPlanet 4 coming out
with all the user generated content back in.
Okay, well, I have something that might lend okay, so someone, I guess for whatever reason, there's this person on Twitter who knows like the server address for the UGC or whatever, and was like pinging it, and the server that actually hosts the UGC is online.
Yeah.
It's just the intermediary between the player and the UGC, whatever that server was, is the one that was offline.
Okay.
So it seems that Sony still has all that UGC.
Right.
But they don't have a way to get it to players.
Right.
So I guess maybe someone's working, maybe either, I don't know if it would be Media Molecule or maybe it would be Sumo. Maybe someone is making a LittleBigPlanet 4.
Look, they haven't said that's not happening. They've only said that LittleBigPlanet 3's user-generated content is going away.
It's indefinitely unavailable.
Right, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna do something with it. I'm not trying to get hopeful.
Yeah, you're like, this is some major spin you're doing for Sony here.
But I mean, if they were smart, they would bring it all back along with LittleBigPlanet 4.
Yeah.
The game's 10 years old.
Imagine you work at Media Molecule, because they're a company, like, they haven't been involved with LittleBigPlanet for a long time.
Right.
Because after LittleBigPlanet 3, they already weren't involved then.
Yeah.
It was not until 2020 that Sackboy's Big Adventure came out.
Yeah,
which is
a spin-off, right?
It's a spin-off. It's not a game where you design levels and stuff like that. It's just like a campaign mode kind of co-op game that you can play. It's like a family-friendly kind of game.
Right.
That was made by Sumo. But we haven't heard anything from Sumo since then. And Media Molecule, they were working on that Dreams game, which was another game all about user-generated content.
Yeah, that's right.
And that ended up being sort of a flop. And we heard that Media Molecule was possibly on the chopping block. But that PlayStation
remembering like
instead.
The presentation for Dream was like, it was hyped.
Yeah,
it was pretty hyped, and I think the expectations for it were high.
Yeah, I think because the tools were really advanced.
Yeah,
it was maybe like a little too off-putting for like your average player.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh my god, I really have to be like a legitimate game developer
Yeah, right.
to like make use of this. Whereas like with Little Big Planet, it's a side-scrolling game. It's pretty easy to just like kind of plug
place
and
objects.
place objects. Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe that's what hurt Dreams. You know, not to speculate, but yeah, I think for me, like Dreams looked incredible.
Yeah.
Like, but when I saw like because we saw like stage demos at like PlayStation Experience,
PSX,
especially the one that was in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were doing these stage demos.
They
like,
had developers on stage.
Yeah, talking about it.
Yeah.
They were giving out posters and stuff too. There were 3 posters, and I have 2 of them. And I don't know why I didn't think to get the
autograph.
Yeah, the autographs of the people on the stage. But yeah, I just remember the tools looked really incredible. And I saw some of the creations that people made. Like some people like recreated like a hyper realistic like Jurassic Park like demo thing, and I was like where you're in that little van on the rail and the T-Rex jumps out over and it looked like the freaking movie. I was really impressed. But yeah, that game kind of was a flop for Media Molecule, and I do wonder where they go next. Do they go back to their roots with Little Big Planet?
Yeah.
Do they try to make something new all over again? I have a feeling they really need their next game to hit, or they're like in serious trouble.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're kind of like the soul of Sony in terms of like a really truly creative endeavor.
Yeah. As far as like branding and identity for PlayStation, yeah, Media Molecule is really important to them right now, or has been in the past.
Yeah.
But Little Big Planet has been passed off to Sumo.
Yeah.
And Media Molecule might kind of be, you know, old hat.
Right, and they might not be able to say, hey, we want Little Big Planet back. Might be like, well, Sumo's working on something. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
You know, you guys wanted to do something else.
Right. So
but it's crazy. They were working on Dreams for like
it was a lot.
7 years.
It was a long development cycle, I remember.
Okay, so that's it for that story. We've got one more story to talk about.
Let's take a break. All right, so before we get into our last story, we're going to talk about the t-shirts we're wearing. So I'll talk about Taylor's first. Taylor's wearing a black t-shirt.
Is it black?
It's like a faded black.
I think it's like blue.
Okay.
Like a very dark navy blue, borderline black. But
I still don't see the blue. But okay. We'll go with that.
We'll ask Jessica afterwards.
All right. Kirby's Dream Band artwork on the front, which, if you don't know who Kirby's Dream Band is, they're a gaming band, rock band that does
cover band.
Yeah, cover band basically that plays all of Kirby's tunes. Right?
And a lot of other stuff
too.
But yeah, they do have an emphasis on Kirby.
Nintendo though, right? Like they're
probably mostly Nintendo, like NES, SNES, Game Boy, N64, that kind of era of music.
So I'm guessing this shirt probably came from a concert from Kirby's Dream Band.
So this shirt's actually pretty darn old. I'd never been to any of their shows. I wish. They used to do shows fairly often, but now they're pretty infrequent about performing. But they just like posted a link on their Twitter years and years ago, like, hey, $15, get a t-shirt.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Gotcha.
And so it's like, just PayPal this random email. I was like, all right, well, let's see how this goes, you know? And sure enough, you know, a couple weeks later, I had this pretty awesome shirt.
So it's got like a sepia tone kind of color scheme going on with their logo, their title artwork, which is reminiscent of the Kirby font.
Yep.
And then in the background, you have that sort of pastel kind of artwork, like vector style, solid color artworart.
Dude, I love that we describe things on this podcast.
and it's got like hills and an open field with stars in the sky and rays of light going out.
Yeah, there's some Japanese at the bottom
and
too.
Some kanji text at the bottom of the shirt.
The whole kanji or katakana?
I'm gonna guess kanji.
Okay, all right, it's kanji.
It's like a vertical portrait kind of framed image on the front of the shirt.
It's like a 8.5 by 11, but
yeah,
or maybe an 8.5 by 14.
So you can
legal size.
You can all see it in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice shirt.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of my faves.
So.
Oh, you know what? Let me check one thing about the Kirby shirt real quick. Oh, no, I must have taken the tag off.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say if it was like Hanes or Fruit of the Loom.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Alright, so Rick is wearing a The Legend of Zelda shirt. It's all green. This is kind of an interesting shirt because it's sort of a mishmash. The font or the Legend of Zelda logo looks like one of the newer logos. Like I want to say like Twilight Princess.
I'm thinking Ocarina.
Well, I know the artwork is definitely Ocarina era.
So is this.
It is it?
Yeah.
Okay, because it doesn't say Ocarina of Time or anything anywhere on the shirt.
No.
So it's a green shirt. It's got the Legend of Zelda and like the logo you probably recognize. Link. It's got some of the character artwork from Ocarina of Time, pretty big on the shirt, and there is a circular kind of yellow gold. God, like a frame around the character artwork, and it's very nice.
You've seen this artwork before, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like in the guides and the manual, that kind of thing.
It's Link with a sword, Master Sword drawn like behind his head.
Yep, he's getting ready to strike. He's got the shield kind of right there too.
Yeah.
So and, anything on the back?
I don't think so.
Do a little spin for me, boy. All right. No, nothing on the back.
Okay.
Where'd you pick that up?
Oh boy, I want to say Kohl's.
Okay, Kohl's.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's what we're wearing, and now let's.
That's it. We're just wearing shirts. Yeah. We usually do this podcast in the nude with each other.
Just no pants on. So let's talk about our last story.
Yeah. So we've been talking about Embracer, the conglomerate, or the Swedish holding group.
Yeah.
That over the last few years has been purchasing lots of companies, been laying off at different companies.
Technically qualifies as a AAA publisher.
Yeah.
One of the big ones in the industry.
Although only very recently a big publisher. Like they kind of came on the scene real quick, grew real quick.
Yeah.
And now they are falling apart in a manner of speaking.
Which is crazy to think about, because I mean, I know we're going to get into it, but they just spent like the past couple of years just bulking up, buying up studios, like, and Embracer, unlike others, like EA puts out their own franchises and stuff. So does Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So does Take-Two. But what is Embracer like?
They just bought IPs, bought properties.
They're just a holding group.
Yeah. So after a couple years of purchases, layoffs, and now more recently sell-offs, Embracer has announced its intention to split into 3 different entities. So Embracer is essentially breaking up and reforming as these 3 different unique companies. So the first one is going to be called Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends.
All right.
Okay. So it's described as a creative powerhouse in AAA game development and publishing for PC and console, as well as the stewards of the Lord of the Rings and Tomb Raider intellectual properties, among many others.
Oh, that's right. They bought Tomb Raider off of Square Enix.
Yeah. And when I say stewards of Lord of the Rings, they literally own, like, they bought it from the Tolkien family.
Really?
Like, for, like, some $400 million.
Just the gaming rights?
No.
All of it?
All of it.
Whoa.
They control Tolkien's legacy at this point. Yeah. So they have the games, the movies, the books. Like, that's all. Like, anything that comes forward from now has to be given, like, they have to give their blessing for it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this also includes Dark Horse Comics, which is one of the larger comic publishers. They also do a lot of like video game art books and things like that. And Limited Run Games.
I didn't know they bought Limited Run.
Yeah, they had bought Limited Run a couple of years ago. I think in 2022 when they were doing all the crazy acquisitions.
And that's when like the founders left and stuff, pretty much. Right?
Well, Josh is still there.
Yeah.
But the other founder, Douglas, he left, I think early 2023.
Right.
He departed the company. Not really sure that the reasons why were ever publicized, but yeah, he's no longer there. So the second entity is called Coffee Stain and Friends.
Okay.
which is intended to consist of leading publishers and developers focused on a variety of games for PC, console, and mobile, including community-driven free-to-play games, live ops games, so like live service games, and indie/AA games.
It seems like they're, with these names and stuff, they're trying to take on like an indie identity.
I guess, indies must drink a lot of coffee because they're up late working on their games.
Well, they're hipsters and they, they occupy the coffee houses. And...
Yeah. Weird name. Still, okay, and then Asmodee Group is described as this is the third arm.
Yeah.
Is described as a leading international publisher and distributor of board games, trading cards, and digital board games with 23 fully owned studios and 300 plus IPs, and constitutes the tabletop games operating segment of Embracer Group. So I did read a little bit about this Asmodee Group.
Mm-hmm.
It has, before Embracer owned it, Asmodee was a thing that already existed.
Okay.
So basically it's almost like they're going back to sort of being their own thing again.
Okay, so was it something that existed that Embracer bought, and now they're kind of making it its own, like,
yeah, instead of all being under one roof, they're now separating these three companies into their own distinct like category. Now, it's not to say that Embracer has sold these companies
right
off.
So I'm gonna guess that there's still a parent company at play with all
there is some factor of that. They go into some reasons for why they decided breaking up the company like this was something desirable for them to do. So let's go over why they thought this was a good idea.
All right.
So the first thing they cited was the entities will have sufficient scale coupled with cleaner operational strategies and financial profiles that enable simplified equity stories to attract a larger pool of investors. Current shareholders can freely decide on their capital allocation between the three entities. So if you own stake in Embracer, I guess now you're able to say, okay, well, I don't really have any faith in this board game and this AAA thing, but I want to put my money into the indie part of the company. So then your growth, I guess, of your money that you have invested there is only determined by what happens there and is not affected by what happens over in the other two parts of the company.
I wonder if that means they're all going to get their own ticker symbol.
Yes.
Okay.
They're all going to be registered on the Swedish NASDAQ.
Got it. Okay. NASDAQ.
So the number two thing, each entity will be able to fully utilize its own balance sheet, its own set of financial targets, and optimal financing structure and capital allocation strategy that enables their growth ambitions. So basically it sounds like they're each going to have like their own budget that's separate from everyone else's, and they'll be able to, balance that themselves and not feel like affected by whatever's going on elsewhere in the company, where it's like, oh man, this one game tanked, and now you can't spend any money on your thing over here or whatever.
Right. Got it.
Chime in if you think I'm interpreting any of this incorrectly.
No, that's what I'm getting out of it.
Okay. So the new structure enables the best possible green lighting models, portfolios, and go-to-market strategies for indie games as well as AAA games.
Just the talk of indie games, like that's even possible in this scenario, is killing me.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about... Let me finish this. So, portfolios and go-to-market strategies for indie games as well as AAA games through two separate, more focused entities. So I guess when they talk about indie games, is Embracer acquired indie studios as part of their acquisition spree.
Right.
So,
I mean, a lot of publishers do that.
Yeah. So I think in Embracer's head, those studios are still indie studios.
You just made them not indie.
I agree. Yeah, but I think Embracer still looks at them. I mean, I don't know how much autonomy, I realize that you're in your head, you're like, well, they've got someone helping fund them now.
Yeah,
so they're no longer indie.
They're getting their paycheck from a parent company and reporting to them as a boss.
Right.
Like, you're not indie.
Yeah. But I think, unfortunately, and we know this to be true, is that indie has become like a scope of a game now. So, like, if your game is like smaller, you're indie.
Right.
Not necessarily like the money you had or didn't have determines whether your game is indie, the team size, any of that doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, Dust in Elysian Tale was this crazy 3D game made by one guy.
Yeah.
That's indie.
Yeah.
That's an indie game. That versus, Dave the Diver or whatever.
Right.
Not the same thing.
Right.
Like, they're not the same. Do not call them both the same.
And the Dave the Diver team said hey, we aren't indie.
Yeah, I just threw that one out there. But there are other examples.
Yeah. I know. And then you see these teams that maybe are on paper indie, but have 60 years of industry experience between the 4 people that work there.
Right.
And it's okay, well, is that really indie?
Right.
Just because you don't have a big publisher anymore?
Right.
I don't really think that counts.
And then,
I'd say that's double A.
Double A. And then you have, the big veterans leaving their studios to form indie studios.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're right, yeah. But they have millions of dollars. Right. And they have
their own personal fortunes.
Yeah, they have veteran talent on board and stuff.
And because they are who they are, they can attract talent to help them.
They can attract
they can call
investors.
Favors. Yeah, investors. It's not the same.
Crowdfunding.
But yeah, and then
gets in the millions.
we did it. We're an indie success story, everyone.
Right. Like it's this big challenge they took on and succeeded.
It was real scary.
Right.
I mean, okay, look, there are instances of big industry names leaving their company, leaving their studios and starting from scratch and failing and going under.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not risky.
There's still risky.
Yeah, sure. You could say that Itagaki did that when he started Valhalla Studios.
Yeah.
They made a game called Devil's Third, and
I remember.
I nothing since then.
Yeah, I mean, the development time was huge, and then it launched on the Wii U.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
At the end of the Wii U's life cycle.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't, by most people's account, it wasn't a particularly great game.
Yeah.
And, he's just been radio silent since.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do worry about Itagaki.
Yeah, I hope something happens.
He had the sunglasses and alligator leather hat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would always be seen in leather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
He looked like a wrestler.
Yeah, he did.
Like Macho Man or something.
The Japanese Randy Savage.
Yeah. R.I.P. Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the fourth point, ongoing and future collaboration around IP, companies, and people will still be enabled and encouraged across these 3 entities.
Mm-hmm.
So, just because they're separate doesn't mean that they can't talk and work together. Yeah. So, I don't know. So, really, Embracer still exists, but Embracer is not the company that you invest in anymore.
Right.
You invest in one of these 3...
subsidiaries.
They're not really subsidiaries, though, because they each have their own, ticker.
So, I get what you're saying. That means they're all each filed separately as separate corporations. But if there is a parent company,
Well, I'm not totally sure that there is.
Well, look, just because a company is on the stock exchange doesn't mean that they don't have a parent company that owns them.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
Well, Google is owned by Alphabet.
So I thought Google's not on the ticker anymore. It's just Alphabet now.
Oh, I don't know. But that would be like a hypothetical example, I
Okay.
guess, of what I'm talking about. Illustration of what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think Embracer might be sort of gone.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's still like
I'm sure there's like a board.
Yeah, maybe there's still a board that represents all three simultaneously. Right. Don't totally. There's still people on payroll. I'm not really sure.
I mean, well, they're talking about collaboration between these three entities. There has to be someone at the helm.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I feel like these are good changes. They sound on paper good.
Yeah.
Like if one area is struggling, it's not going to pull the other two under with them.
What they're doing is diversifying, really.
Yeah, and they're like minimizing risk across the whole, all three sectors. You know,
they could chop one of these off if it came to that.
Yeah, and still... I mean, I guess basically, I mean, there must be someone in charge of each of these individuals.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, they are separate entities, corporate entities. I'm sure they each have a CEO.
So previously, I had mentioned in passing that Embracer, it was rumored kind of strongly, and there was evidence to back it up from some, not your favorite, but gaming's most respected journalist, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg.
Right.
He came out and said that Embracer was bulking up because they wanted to be bought by some Saudi
prince.
Yeah. Essentially, who I guess was like really seriously interested, and the deal got really far along, but then fell apart for whatever reason. And so that's when Embracer went into panic mode and started selling things off, laying off, and now they've made this move, I guess, as sort of like all right, we've done everything we can do. Now we're going to break the company up into 3 different companies, and let's ride this out.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good way to hedge your bets. You know, like, if you're not sure what's going to succeed and what's not, and you're just uncertain in general, diversifying like this is a good way to mitigate, you know, any potential bankruptcy.
Yeah.
You know, because, like I say, if the board game arm of this is costing money to operate, you know...
I would suspect that they're probably the safest one out of the 3.
You might be right.
Games seem so volatile.
Yeah, they are.
The industry, whereas like board games, I'm sure they have like a steady, like reliable kind of like clientele. You know.
I think that board games have their niches and genres and stuff, just like games do. Some people are interested in like family style board games.
Sure.
Others are interested in complex RPGs.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, those are gonna be different people.
Yeah.
That's just my speculation, but yeah, but I'm sure it's easier to identify and market.
Board game studios are probably what it takes to make a AAA board game is probably nothing in comparison to a AAA video game.
As far as work, yeah.
Team size,
right?
Like payment,
right? You know. Manufacturing would probably be more.
That's expensive, a lot of physical parts to those things.
But I also too, there's probably a lot less studios and companies doing board games and card games than there are games, video games.
Yeah, I mean, board games have like had a resurgence over the last decade. I would say, like, I know a fair amount of people that are like into board games, like pretty hardcore.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of video games nowadays get board game adaptations too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I do like to see that kind of crossover. But I think that board game companies probably talk to each other a lot more. Probably collaborate. All the conventions that there's only a few compared to video games.
Yeah. So
they probably all know each other.
I think Gen Con is like a really big tabletop.
Yeah.
It's like somewhere in like the Midwest, I think.
Yeah.
What else they got to do out there when it's snowing?
Board games, dude. And transmission.